Hey guys, I'm Zoe. I'm from the Sweaty Palms podcast. I have it like down there. And I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. And I'm really excited and a little nervous. So hopefully my voice doesn't crack, but if it does, you know why.
Don't worry, you're all good.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, sure. And I love your accents. My dad lives in Portugal and I have a lot of family over in Europe. So maybe I'll come to Ireland one day and be able to see you. My sister's in Hamburg, so I want to come see your show in Hamburg, but it's literally next week, so that probably wouldn't work out. Um,
That'd be a good turnaround if you did.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd be impressed with that. Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna do it basically. Okay, so do we wait for everybody to come on, or is are y'all all...
It's just us two.
Okay, cool. So I guess my very first question is, how did you go from performing on bingo nights and pubs to opening for the Rolling Stones at Croke Park?
It's a good start.
Yeah.
We were all in school together and we had been playing in various different outfits, and towards the end of school we kind of became the four-piece that we are. And like any band, we just chased down whatever we could, like going in with like a recording or like a really bad demo and asking could we play. And yeah, we kind of, our first tryout was like a whoever drinks the most wins battle of the bands kind of thing. And that's kind of where we started and kind of cut our teeth and played live for a while. And like Stephen wasn't even like above the age of drinking at the time, so we were technically, a lot of bands get kicked out for playing at that age, but it was kind of a bit under the table.
Okay.
And I suppose, Stephen, we kind of got in the community of our nearest like big town, Mullingar.
Yeah,
and
completely.
From there, yeah,
we're very lucky in the town that we have. Has huge kind of musical heritage. One of the greatest show band singers of all time, called Joe Dolan, is from there, and Niall Horan from One Direction's there, and there's tons more. We got a huge, it's a real cultural kind of hotspot, and we were lucky enough that people were interested in hearing original music there sometimes, so that we got to play in local pubs. And then yeah, it's kind of really hard to describe how it went from, from the very, very start to like the Stones thing, because we've been a band for like about 10 years now. We kind of haven't had like one big moment that propelled us. It's the way we kind of describe it is that we've had all these little victories, and it felt like with the Stones thing, for example, like just to fast track that kind of story, it's, yeah, we started when we were kids in school and we played in local places, and then we started to gig all around Ireland, and then we got a good reputation as a live band, and then we recorded the single in 2015, and thankfully that got a good reception, and we just kept building little victories from there. And then in 2018 our first album came out and it did well. It went to #1 in Ireland, and we were just having a really good time, and we were doing well with gigs in Ireland. And then the promoter pitched us as the Rolling Stones support, and then yeah, I guess we've been told that they went through all the possible support acts, and that they saw what we were doing as an independent band, and they heard about the success of the album and listened to a little bit. And then yeah, I've no idea why, but they picked us.
I mean,
yeah,
that's huge. Okay, so I have to ask, what if you were under the age? What's the drinking age in Ireland? Because I know in Germany you can drink beer and wine at 16.
18
it's
here.
It's 18 legally here, but like culturally, it's it's whenever you want.
Okay, that's whatever. I mean, that was my experience too. I grew up in Germany for a little bit, not to the drinking age, but yeah, like things are way more lax in Europe. I visit. I might move back, and then we can all be friends. And then I'll come to Ireland, and then yeah. Okay, so this kind of goes off what you guys mentioned, but how do you all think growing up together as a band has influenced your musical style, the things you write about, and how well you work together?
Yeah, I think being friends and having known each other even longer than the band has existed has been like a crucial part to like the longevity and the creativity, really. Because we just kind of have like a foundation of when we all, like when we connect, we know what we like, and we're all kind of aware of each other's influences and stuff. It's not like we don't see half of the band. We all know each other really well. So when it comes to discussing like creativity and, you know, and then living together and being in a band, it makes that whole thing, makes it very like cohesive and like extremely easy to do. I feel lucky that I can answer that question, because I don't know what it would like. I just never want to really know what it would like being in a band if I was like a hired gun, or, you know, if like Stephen was just some guy who shows up with a bass and I'm like, what's the story? Like, so yeah, the academics are quite familial.
I think it's our greatest strength in many ways as a band, is that like we all had years of being friends and family. For me and Matt and my brother Matthew's in the band as well, so that we had like years of experiences being friends and family before the academic kicked off. And I mean, roughly we've all known each other. Me and Matthew have obviously known each other forever, again, because we're brothers, but the rest of us have all known each other since we were 12. Mm-hmm. So I think when you've known someone for that long, and then the band got serious when we were in our kind of late teen years. So that foundation, I think, is probably our greatest strength. And like Craig said, God only knows what kind of shape we'd be in if we were just some guys who got together in our early 20s and didn't understand how to be around each other, and didn't like really fundamentally understand who each of us is as a person, and how this well-oiled machine keeps going. You know, I feel like we've been really lucky.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think you have that on your side for sure. That's like incredible. 10 years together as a band is like unheard of in the music industry. So like congrats to you guys. That's huge.
Thanks.
So I'm like, okay, so I have to just really quickly, I named my podcast Sweaty Palms because my hands sweat. Like having to interview people is like very nerve-wracking for me, but I love doing it. So anyway, that's just throwing that in there. My hands are sweating.
I get that too.
You're doing great.
Yeah, like
yeah, I did this. Obviously, I get used to like performing on stage or something, but I did a guest spot. Sorry to go on a little tangent, but I did a guest spot on a local radio station recently, and as kind of a joke and as kind of a serious thing, they let me do the weather. And I was doing the weather live on the radio, and my palms were so sweaty, you wouldn't believe it. I was so nervous. It was like a different type of pressure that you don't get from being in a studio or being on stage. When I was like, when the mic went live and I had to read out the weather, I was like, you know, it's sunny with scattered showers and blah, blah, blah. Because my hands were, I just remember feeling, it's funny that's the name of the podcast, because I remember like my palms have never been this sweaty before.
Yeah, like you feel drenched and you're like, I want to like wipe them on my pants. But then if you do, then you like leave the sweat stains and people are like, something's wrong with her.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Was it like a video or was it just the audio of like you talking about the weather?
It was just the audio, thank God. So I could kind of like be hunched over and have my sweaty palms, and no one was judging me as long as it sounded okay.
Awesome. So my next question is, your song My Very Best seems to take on themes of mental health and the idea that you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. And I kind of and that you might even lose yourself in trying to help that person. How did you come up with the concept or idea for the song, and what made you want to write about this specific type of relationship?
It was personally happening, which made it quite easy. The title had just arrived out of a situation of a relationship breakdown, and it's interesting because it's like from me to that person, but it was just one of those moments where like I think like it was written in COVID times, and it was like everything was very heavy. And you know, we were like you weren't seeing a lot of each other, and it was like that desperation to like find that breakthrough of, I know this can be good if I can just work and try everything I can, and it just never kind of happens. And it's kind of facing that reality that no matter like how good or hard you try, sometimes your best isn't good enough, and it's just a little stinker to accept in love and loss. But it is, I think, like we say, it's kind of the emotional centerpiece of the album. And I just feel that title, when it lands, I think it just kind of perfectly wraps itself around. And then the verses are this kind of storyteller going about difficulties in even like stuff that's quite like simple, like like letting an assumption ruin your day. you know, those small little things that you're kind of playing mind games, and then, you know, there's the bigger thing that sometimes you try and avoid and work really hard to fix, but it just doesn't happen.
It's a great song. When I heard it the first time, I just felt like I'd experienced that so many times in my life.
Mhm.
And it really resonated with me. So I'm really glad that you guys wrote it and produced it and let it out into the world, because I feel like it's helped a lot of people, including myself. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad.
Cheers.
I'm curious about the timeline for when artists choose to release new music, whether it be a single, EP, or an album. Your debut album, Tales from the Backseat, was released about 5 years ago. Why did you decide to release your newest album, Sitting Pretty Now, with singles and EPs being released in between?
I guess it's a great question, because it wasn't the way things happened wasn't the plan. We released we released our first album in 2018, and we did that kind of as an independent band. And then we had a really fun couple of years touring that album. And then at the end of 2019, as we were starting to think about working on a second album, we'd released a couple of singles just to tie that over. And as we started to have serious discussions about the second album, we ended up signing a record deal with Capitol Records. And then 3 months after that, COVID happened. So there was this real sense of, why on earth would we release a second album if we couldn't do our favorite thing and tour it to everyone who wants to hear it? So that really kind of made our minds up for us, in the sense that maybe it's time for an EP. Maybe it's time for like an EP where we can get 5 or 6 songs out of our system. We can experiment a little bit. We can still have a couple of singles off them. We can still do music videos. We just can't tour. And that was a harsh reality we had to accept. So essentially, when you talk about the 2 EPs that came in between the album, Act of My Age and Community Spirit, they were very much influenced by the pandemic. And we only started to have then the conversations about the second album when we were absolutely positive that we could do it on our terms, get everyone together in a proper old school studio with everyone jamming together, true collaboration. And then when we were finished it, that we could release it, pack our bags, and hit the road, which is what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. It's been really fun. But yeah, it was, like I said, none of that was planned. There was a lot of, like, we had no idea in March 2020 what we were working on, if it was going to go towards an album, if it was going to be a standalone single. We were just kind of rolling with the punches, and it ended up being 2 EPs to fill that time. And thankfully, we arrived at Sitting Pretty in a version of the world where we can go and tour.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I guess COVID kind of changed everything for everybody. So I was really curious about that dynamic, but that's cool. I like how it kind of fell together and it worked out for you guys, which is great. Sorry, hold on. Got a little nervous. Okay. How do you think being a band from Ireland has helped or hindered your band in breaking into the music scene? Obviously, you've had a lot of success. So I'm curious just to hear your perspective on the European music scene and, quote, making it big.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for a while, people didn't know we were Irish. Am I right in saying that? Because I think we're so influenced by American bands, and the first album was made in America. And I don't know, maybe you can tell me, I don't think I sound like Shane MacGowan or something like. So I always felt like some people would, like comment and go, are these guys Irish? But as far as like getting out of Ireland, there does seem to be a desire there. Like people, like Irish interest in Irish music is definitely out there. And I think if you can prove yourself as a good act from Ireland, people will potentially listen, just because of like the rich history that comes out of it, like out of the arts in general, not just music. So I guess that's one way it's helped. I don't know if you have another angle, Steve.
What I was thinking was, I guess because the Irish are such serial emigrators and that you will find Irish people all over the world. I mean, that's definitely helped us in that we've been accepted with open arms pretty much everywhere we've went. And also, yeah, I guess we're quite lucky that there's a real kind of happening scene right now within Irish alternative music where like you've seen huge international success with the likes of Fontaines DC and Inhaler. And I mean, like if we can be involved in that conversation and you know, thankfully we've got a decent following in Europe and the UK and stuff. There's a really, really healthy scene for Irish acts trying to make it overseas at the minute. I don't think it's hindered us in any way to answer the flip side of your question. I can't think of a way in that one thing we never wanted was to be that band who went overseas and only Irish people were at the gigs. We never wanted that. We never wanted just all the expats showing up and shouting Irish things at us on stage. And thankfully, we're not that band. We get a healthy amount of support from Irish people if they happen to be in, you know, wherever, Vienna, Toronto, where, you know, it's like, we get like one or two people and they're like, oh, I'm from Ireland, I'm from here, and that's cool. But thankfully we always had ambitions to be an international band, and like Craig said, that maybe we don't like sound like what you would think a traditional Irish band would sound like. So yeah, I think it's our identity as Irish people has only helped us. I don't think it's hindered us in a single way, thank God.
That's awesome. I'm like half Irish, half German. I don't know if you can tell by the hair.
Cool, yeah.
But yeah, I had to ask because I thought it was really cool. I've been to a couple of festivals in Europe, mostly in Denmark because my other sister's in Denmark. But I just was curious to see the differences between the European music scene versus American because I work, you know, here in the U.S. But I would love to transition over at some point in Europe and see how that would be for myself too, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. How much creative freedom did you have along the way in being able to craft your image? It's kind of weird.
I'd say 100%. I think
100%. Yeah.
We've never kind of bended to anyone's. And to be fair, we've never. I don't know. Is there maybe this thankfully is a way of the past where you'd have these management groups or record labels who'd have this kind of unfair amount of influence over what an act sounds like, what an act looks like. I think in the age of like social media and stuff, like transparency has never been more like at the forefront of what makes acts popular. I think people can tell if you shoved us all in like white tuxedos and we were like, hey, this is the new look for the Academic, I think people would be like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that that's what they want to do. So I think thankfully there's more transparency than ever. And that like acts who are like being unashamedly themselves are rising to the top. I hope anyway. I think that's like a really uncynical way to look at it. But for the most part, I do believe that to be true. I don't know about you, Craig, what you think.
I was going to agree. I feel like when we maybe started in the music industry and had a bit of interest, getting to meet other bands along the way at like club shows or whatever, there was definitely the idea of seeing a band be micromanaged behind the scenes was normal. And luckily we didn't get into that too much, but I actually kind of really do feel like what Stephen's saying, like it is dead in the water in a way. It's definitely it's more beneficial to just be yourself, which is a brilliant thing to say. But yeah, totally agree with Stephen.
Did you know the example I was thinking of was like, I know he's not like musically comparable to us probably at all, but it was Lewis Capaldi. I know he's kind of popular in America as well, but just someone who's so unashamedly himself and couldn't probably no one could do that act if they tried because it's so kind of natural to him and it's so who he is. And I think people buy into that and that's what makes people love him.
Definitely. He's hilarious. I love seeing kind of this sounds weird to say, but like the humanity behind artists. Cause I think, you know, when you become famous, people tend to want to rip you apart or put their assumptions of who you are on you. But if you can completely be yourself, then you can connect with a lot of different people and people seem to, you know, kind of, I don't know, feel like they can relate to you more. I don't know. Or I guess
exactly.
I watched the YouTube video that you guys posted for the live Looper version of Bear Claw. I thought it was such a unique concept for a video. How did you come up with the idea to make it? And was it all in one take or did you have to take like several takes if you messed up or something?
No, amazingly, it was all one take.
Joking.
Yeah, look, there's no technical wizard in the Academic. We're always looking for cool ideas. and we're very open to kind of seeing what kind of forms our music can live inside of. And we just teamed up with these guys who had an idea, and it took a lot of musicality to fit it into like this whole forcing the Facebook Live to work. So we had to like change the tempo of our song Bear Claws, and we done like a whole day's rehearsal, and there was like, we got it in one take, but there was numerous takes of us, either the whatever it was, like the machine that was freezing the lag kept going. So overall it turned out great, but it was tough to get there, but the end result obviously impressed quite a lot of people, and you know, it kind of broadcasted us around the world, and I think it's one of our most viewed things we've ever done. So proud of it, but it was a big load of stress getting to the finish line.
Yeah.
I thought it was an amazing video. I actually went on a date with a guy, and I brought up that I was going to be interviewing y'all, and he was like, oh my gosh, I saw that video on YouTube. Like, you have to watch it. And I was like, I've already seen it, but he thought it was really cool. Where do you guys hope to see the band in 5 years? Like, have you had a timeline for what you want to be doing, or where you want to be playing, or, you know, anything in general, I guess?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that it took so long between the first album and the second album. It took 5 years. So we just really don't want it to take that long again. We want to go, I think, really quick with our third album. Mm-hmm. We want to, as soon as we're finished touring this one, we might practice some stuff while we're sound checking across like the rest of the European tour and the North American tour. And then hopefully get in a studio straight away. And I don't know, maybe have like a couple of albums out in the next 5 years, definitely. But I don't think we've any like big goal that we like pin up on our walls and say we want to do that. I think we just want to keep claiming these little victories and trying to keep bumping our band up the ladder, and we're lucky that every time we go back to a new place, it's usually in a bigger venue. And if we can just keep bumping that up and keep that kind of slow but steady progression that we've had over the last few years, if we could just keep that going, and if people were still passionate about our music, and if fans still kind of found comfort and meaning in our music, I think that would be probably the biggest goal. But yeah, the main thing is just not take so long this time.
Well, it wasn't your fault, you know, pandemic kind of,
that is true.
Yeah. We'll kind of lag a couple things. So I was going to say something off that. I'm going to come see you guys either in Chicago or Colorado. I haven't decided yet. So
great.
You'll see.
Oh, cool. Where are you based?
So I'm in Athens, Georgia, which is like a small little town. If you know anything about Georgia, like Atlanta's the big city, and that's where my parents live. But I have a friend who lives in Denver, so I was like, okay, I can come see him, and then we can go to y'all's show, or I can go to Chicago because the company I work for is based out of there, and then I'll come see you guys maybe with some of my coworkers. So we'll see. Yeah.
Amazing. Athens, Georgia is a huge music history.
It is. Yeah. I'm actually set to interview Mike Mills from REM.
Oh, he's like my hero.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He actually lives in Athens still, and I see him. I worked at the 40 Watt Club, which is like a smaller music venue there for all of college. And he would come in all the time, so we know each other.
No way.
Yeah, I'm a little,
that's cool.
I'm a little very nervous too for that, but it'll be okay.
Yeah, I seen an REM doc years ago, and they were talking about Athens and playing at house parties and the B-52s and all that stuff. Yeah, REM are like probably one of my favorite American bands, and as a bass player, Mike Mills, he's like the second coming of Paul McCartney on bass. He's just so melodic. He's a genius. What's
something you've learned about the music industry that you didn't expect? Whether it be on the live side of the business, like with touring or in recording, just was curious about that.
It's such a good question. We were so naive when we started the band that I feel like almost everything we've learned has taken us by surprise. I'm trying to think if there's one thing that really sticks out. Have you got anything, Greg?
Like for me, it's like small things that don't sound that important, but like when you're on the road so much, like, you know, genuinely eat well. You know, you can just, sometimes you just think you can eat the quickest thing near you, and it's just gonna it's just gonna destroy you. Like I think I definitely had that happen to me on the road. I'd say everyone else in the band would admit it, but yeah, I suppose just like the endurance that it takes to kind of be able to do it. So like I guess the live thing is probably where we learn the most, because we probably do it the most. So yeah, just the kind of checking in on yourself and keeping yourself going is like a learning curve every time you pack a bag and you learn something new about it, or bring an extension lead because like plug isn't beside the bed, or like silly things like that. And then but I'm trying to think of something huge to say, but I just can't get one.
I think just even to bring it back to the live looper thing, the video, it's just like a general open-mindedness of like recognizing when a good thing is a good thing and going with it. And yeah, just like not being too headstrong or conservative or anything like that. Just having a nice open mind. And yeah, I see that's not even...
No, I think that's the big answer, Steve. That's the big answer.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know where we learned that, or if that's even something you learn about the music industry. But I just think if anyone was listening to this who was like looking for advice like that of what any of this experience has taught us, it's just to keep an open mind. Collaboration is key, and it'll only make you better in kind of everything that you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great answer. I also like that you mentioned bringing up touring on the road, because I know how hard that is on like your body and just mentally, and you're traveling, and whether it's you're in a bus or you're on a plane, like it just, whenever I go to see my dad in Europe or my siblings over there, just getting there is such a process. So you guys have to take a 8 to 9 to 10 hour flight to get here when you do your North American tour, and then you got to drive all the way around or fly, whatever you're doing. So that's intense. And yeah, eating properly is important, and then also keeping an open mind, I think, going into doing what you're doing, because you're creative. So that's like a staple of being a creative person, is having an open mind.
Yeah,
so smart. Oh my gosh. I mean, I knew that. I said as if I'd be surprised, but you just it's really been really cool to talk with you and listen to what you've talked about and the experiences you've had, and I just really thankful for this opportunity. So thank you for wanting to do this, I guess.
No, our pleasure.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. And I think that was all of my questions. Yeah. But I guess my very last one was gonna be like, what are you most excited about when you come on your North American tour? But I think you already answered that in the interview that y'all had last week. I was a part of that, but I had myself muted, so I didn't get to talk. But I'm glad I got to this week or today. I'm getting nervous now. Wow, I gotta stop. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Zoe.
That was great. Thanks so much.
It's been really fun.
Yeah,
you should put some like funny music in the break that we just had. You should put some like waiting music or something.
That would be great. And I can't wait.
I was gonna say, the SpongeBob thing is like 4 hours later.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta show you something before you get off. This is sorry for my messy apartment, but
there we go. There we go.
Yeah, I had an obsession over COVID, like quarantine and stuff. I just painted a lot because it was like my last year of college, and I've painted, I think, probably over 20 of those, but I've given most of them away. So yeah,
that's cool.
Very cool. Super cool.
Yeah. Okay, I'll let you guys go because I know you probably have very busy days and want to, enjoy it. So
thanks, Zoe. It's nice to meet you, and we'll see you in whatever gig you come to.
Yes, Chicago and/or Denver. But I'll send you I'll DM you the graphic too, so you can see that.
Amazing.
Super. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye bye.
Thanks.
See you guys.